get into it? We do. So we're moving now on. Well, no, you take over. We're moving now on to the item 9, the draft submission for the Selwyn District Plan. So we have some very intelligent people down the end of the table that are going to tell us all about it. Not this end.
Don't stress them out.
And dare I say, before we get too carried away, this should just whistle through without any hassle. Okay?
Haven't you read my amendments?
Have you got that, Yanni?
All right. So yes, this probably actually follows on. There's a bit of a segue between what we just discussed before the break and now. So there's two submissions that we're talking about today. One is on the Selwyn District Plan, which is their 10-year review of their plan, and but there's also a plan change as well that it's a private plan change that has been lodged with the Selwyn District Council that we're also got a draft submission there on as well. And I just want to give a bit of context, or some recent context to that. As was sort of mentioned in the previous presentation, the NPS, we talked a lot about the intensification changes and the car parking changes. Adele also briefly mentioned the responsive planning changes in the NPS, and that so the NPS is about building up, but also building out. Providing more housing both up and both by out. Now, so the NPS enables requires councils to be more responsive to out of sequence development. Now, what's happened in Selwyn just in the last few weeks since this NPS came out is developers have seen this opportunity, and this plan change 64 is the first one that has seen the opportunity of being responsive and is proposing a new greenfield development, an extension to Farringdon and Rolleston. We've just been alerted by Selwyn District Council, and we're working very closely with them, that in the last week they've received another 3 plan changes, and they received one the week before. So there is now, these have been lodged, so these are public, but they haven't been notified yet, so we will inform you when they're notified. But I'm just putting it in the context of what is coming because of this NPS. So this one in Rolleston 64 is 900 or almost 1,000 houses in Rolleston. They've last week they had a plan change for 2,000 houses in Lincoln, for another 800 in Prebleton, another 800 in Rolleston, and the week before another 500 in West Melton. So, so that's about 5,000 houses all up that are being proposed through private plan changes as out of sequence development. So this is extension of greenfield areas beyond what has previously been anticipated. Some are within the urban development boundaries, like this one in Land Change 64, but some, especially the 2,000 in Lincoln and the 800 in Prebleton and the 500 in West Melton, are beyond the urban development boundaries. So it just shows you a bit of the what the market is doing in response to NPS, and I think also in response to, as you're talking about roads, the opening of the Southern Motorway. People are seeing the attractiveness of development, and so more and more of this is coming. We are working very closely with Selwyn District, and we've had a discussion about how we can collectively respond to this, and also at a greater Christchurch partnership level. It's still very early days as to how we're going to respond to this. They have recognised that for this plan change 64, it's the notification closes next week, so the only option at this stage is the submission. But we're hoping for the other ones, maybe we can be a bit more proactive and look at options around those. And yeah, one of the issues is how do we sort out the transport issues that these will create. So yeah, that's just a bit of a context of what's potentially coming. If that's helpful.
Yeah, yep. Thank you very much. Is there any questions from anybody? I didn't think so. Thank you. Yanni and Tim.
Just so I've just sent through the Greater Christchurch Urban Settlement Pattern Housing Action, and that was to align with the Selwyn District Plan Review. And I know that we've only just had the information, but I just wondered if we could attach the table of actions in the submission, because we've got one sort of sentence around it, but it doesn't seem to kind of go far enough. And I guess the request would be basically that they do consider social and affordable housing as part of the district plan, as part of this district plan review, and make sure that they've got provision to have scope around it.
So what we've discussed this with Selwyn quite a bit. The submission we've put in, we think is sufficient to give scope for them to implement the social and affordable housing action plan. I understand there is a briefing to council on that action plan in early December, so that will provide a bit more context as to what is in the draft action plan.
Just the timing for that is March 2021, so we're not going to get the action plan until then. Is that, in terms of their plan change process, sufficient time? Do we know when the hearings will be?
We don't know exactly when the hearings will be, but it should align. They are aware of that issue, and that they are trying to make sure that things do align. But until the action plan is landed and is approved, then it's too early to know exactly what actions this plan change will have to.
I think the concern I've got is that the action plan will actually have not actions to do stuff, it'll be actions to do more work to find out what to do. And so by the time that that's finished, it would seem like they've missed the opportunities. So I don't know if we can be more specific, or we could talk to the staff that are behind that action plan and see what sort of things we should be putting in. I mean, things like inclusionary zoning seem the obvious one, that we would ask that they set aside an amount of land that's rezoned for development from rural into space for affordable and social housing, where we just make that direct request rather than rely on recommendations that have yet to be developed.
No, so that was we don't have inclusionary zoning in our plan, and there is some legal issues with inclusionary zoning. I know Auckland have just going through that at the moment. It was rejected in Queenstown through the Environment Court, and Auckland have also had similar issues there legally. So there is quite a lot more work, as you say, to go through with inclusionary zoning. We haven't put it in our plan, but we are open to it in terms of that work. So we are a bit conscious that we don't want to impose something on Selwyn that we haven't been able to do ourselves. We want to work in partnership with them through this.
I hear what you're saying. I get that.
That's why we've linked it to the action plan rather than being more directive.
We did in 2007 sign up to the Greater Christchurch Urban Development Strategy, which had inclusionary zoning as one of the key actions, top 20 priority actions. So, I mean, 2007, that's almost, quite considerable time has passed. So, I mean, I'm happy for us just to have something that asks them to consider it rather than say they have to have it, so that if it does turn out that it's something. But, I mean, I don't know, it's just frustrating that we keep doing these district plan reviews. We've got all this work that we're told needs to inform them, but we never seem in a position to actually be able to put things forward in this social and affordable housing space. So.
Thanks, Shani. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you feel that in the documents, and I think it's probably stronger in attachment B with regards to the change 64 request, about the emphasis on the public transport between the Selwyn district and Christchurch City? Because it seems that we're mentioning about public transport, but it could be defined as within Rolleston and those areas, rather than the concern I thought from us as a council was all those vehicles travelling to Christchurch and affecting our city, where it's our ratepayers having to pay for dealing with it.
Yeah, that's definitely our concern. We can make that stronger if you don't think that's stronger. I think the difference between the Selwyn district plan versus Plan Change 64 is Selwyn district plan is not actually they're not proposing any new greenfield developments through the district plan. It's the plan change, the private plan change, that is proposing an additional greenfield development. So that's where the pressure comes in.
Yeah, I realise that, but if we don't look at those private plan changes, you're suddenly going to have a jigsaw with no connection. And so I do think that there is a responsibility for the Selwyn District Council, and because we have the same things. I'm not telling them how to suck eggs. So there is an issue there, especially if we're looking at climate change as the school, the governors with all those vehicles on the road, etc. But we're never going to have any good public transport interlinking if we don't start driving it somewhere. Thank you.
Leanne? You're done? Right. Would any more questions? No, thank you. Jake would move it, thank you.
Small amendment in that last sentence.
Where am I looking here?
Have you got something that you wanted to send through, Yanni? Or?
It's just under point 34. We request that the relevant recommendations of the social and affordable housing action plan be incorporated into the plan change, and that consideration of inclusionary zonings. And the consideration of inclusionary zoning. Well, we've seen it, and it is, and it's already in the urban development strategy and about a zillion other documents. But it's not saying that they do it, it's just saying that they consider it.
Yeah, just remember the action, the way that the GCP process works is that the social and affordable action plan will be briefed to all of the TAs and will need to be formally adopted because the Greater Christchurch Partnership doesn't have this delegation. Will need to be formally adopted and agreed by each of the relevant councils. So, yeah, it's not a requirement to put it in the district plan. Yeah.
Okay, and this is just to get us in the tent. We're not disputing that they can go ahead with it, but it's just to get us in the tent to start the race, so to speak. Rightio, anyone who's... Okay. So have I got... Jake's moved it. Melanie's seconded. Yeah, thank you, mate. So I'll just move it there. Yeah, just...
Yep.
Yeah, so it's moved and seconded. All those in favour? Pardon? Oh, sorry, all right. There's no... Okay, debate. I've only just got here. Debate. Thank you, Leanne.
I feel like I would be disappointing the chairman if I didn't at least offer a view on this important matter. But it really is to reinforce some of the comments I made before. And that is that and I was concerned to hear your advice that additional private plan changes have been lodged in the Selwyn district. And it's not that it's the Selwyn district, even the outer regions of our own district that would be outside the urban development strategy boundary or the urban development boundaries, and also on the Waimakariri side as well. We have worked very hard to collaborate and operate as a triumvirate through the urban development strategy and now the future development strategy in our space. We have met all of the requirements of the National Policy Statement, but if this is the promise of things to come, then it reinforces my concerns, and those concerns remain greenfields development, urban sprawl, and actually creating some of the problems that we can avoid by operating in a collaborative way. So I think the submission on Plan Change 64 is entirely appropriate, and I'll also continue to work collaboratively with Selwyn District Council on its proposed changes to the district plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yanni?
Thanks. Thank you. I think at least I need to acknowledge that we do have some reference to social and affordable housing, even though the actions are not specific. What we do know actually is that Selwyn and Waimak have the highest number of covenants in the country preventing social housing being built in new subdivisions. So when we think about the need for people to actually be able to stay in their community as they age or as their circumstances change, it's a pretty sad indictment that two of our neighbours have the worst way have excluded social housing from being built in these new developments. So I think as a city and as a region, we have to get a lot smarter at enabling social housing to be spread across equally around our region. So that's why I think things like inclusionary zoning are so important, because we've heard through this process that we can't actually address the covenant issue, that it's not part of a Resource Management Act process. So the only other way to do it is to look at the inclusionary zoning. And what I understand from Queenstown is the argument goes that when people make money off the very valuable increase they get from rezoning rural to residential or commercial or industrial, they make a lot of profit off that. So isn't it fair that they give something back to the community to recognise the community impact that that new development will have? So, I think we need to keep pursuing this. We'll wait and see what those recommendations are. It is really urgent. It's unfortunately overdue already. It was overdue since 2007. So let's keep the pressure on and try and get some real change.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any more debate? Right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Thank you. You want that recorded? No. Thank you, Aaron. Right, now we're moving on to number 10.